Natalie will tell you when we're good to go. Okay,
Okay, we'll call the April 4th, 2022 meeting of the Amherst Planning Advisory Committee to order. The agenda for the meeting was circulated previously. I will take a motion to accept that agenda, please.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Christie,
yes,
seconder. Mr. Party.
okay,
Yep.
It's been moved and seconded that the agenda for today's meeting be approved as circulated. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary? Agenda is approved. The minutes of the February 7th, 2022 meeting has been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions? Will somebody move the acceptance of those minutes, please? Counselor Davison,
Acceptance of the 7th February 2022 minutes.
is there a seconder? Counselor Landry?
Yes, I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that the minutes of the February 7th, 2022 meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee be approved as submitted. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary? Minutes approved. Also, the minutes of the February 28th, 2022 meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee have been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions? Somebody move the acceptance. Council Deputy Mayor Christie.
I'll move, yes,
You. Second. Councilor Landry.
Yes, I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that the minutes of the February 28th, 2022 meeting be approved. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary? Minutes approved. So now turn it over to Ms. Jones, please, to welcome the new committee.
Would you like to speak? You have to let.
Well, okay. We'll get used to it. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We have two new appointments for the fiscal year. So Larry Party, who is joining us today on Zoom, has been reappointed for another term. And we have a brand new member with us, Creighton McCarthy, who is new to the committee. So welcome. I think what we'll do, maybe if you'd like to say a few words, introduce yourself, and then the rest of we'll go around and the rest can introduce themselves.
Okay.
We need to put your mic on. And then that'll- there you go.
My name is Creighton McCarthy, as just mentioned. I was born in Truro, but I moved to Amherst around 8 years old and stayed here until I joined the military at age 19. I was 36 years in that organization and retired as a major and bought a place out on the shore next to Kay's Corner Store and moved into town last year into one of Billy Langel's new places. I was on the health board here for about 13 years and enjoyed the ability to impact and participate and saw this as an opportunity.
Great, thank you. Maybe we'll continue on and have them introduce.
Great, and we've met. I'm Jason McDonald. I'm the town CEO, and really happy to have you on the committee and look forward to working with you and we're, sharing your knowledge, I hope. Yeah.
That may be difficult.
Leon Landry, first term counselor.
Welcome aboard and welcome to the folks that are reoffering.
Emily Wainwright, the Dangerous and Unsightly Administrator. Cindy Brown, Administrative Assistant.
Sheila Christie, Deputy Mayor on second term as council.
Hal Davidson, rookie counselor.
I'm Natalie LeBlanc and I'm the deputy clerk.
Kim Jones, municipal clerk.
I'm Ron Wilson, the citizens appointee on a committee as well.
And I'm Andrew Fisher. We spoke earlier today. I'm the Director of Planning and Strategic Initiatives. Welcome aboard. Looking forward to your input.
Thank you, and it's nice to see that we're back in person. I don't think that even with the masks, we're here incognito for sure. We can recognize everybody, and we're looking forward to hopefully many more people. And I think also we have some people up in the Zoom zone as well that we would like to introduce themselves as well.
Me,
Go ahead, Larry.
Larry?
Larry Party, I'm the citizen representative as well, and yeah, looking forward to having the in-person session. I didn't realize this session was available in person today, but having just arrived back in the country from a trip down south, it was probably not good that I attend in person anyway, just out of abundance of caution. So nice to meet you.
Thanks, Larry. Mark?
I am the building official for the town of Amherst.
Some way we can.
So you're gonna tell him when we get to his part that we'll make sure he can.
Okay, Mr. Wells, once we get to your item on the agenda, we'll make sure that the sound system is such that you will be able to hear us. So it'll be a few more minutes before we'll bring your item on the agenda. And then we will adjust the audio in the room to make sure that you're able to hear us. I guess we have all of our introductions now. The next item on the agenda deals with the election of the chair and vice chair of the Planning Advisory Committee. And I'll turn that over to Ms. Jones.
Thank you very much. So per policy, the first meeting of the fiscal year, we elect a chair and vice chair. So I'm going to start with the chairperson position, and I'm looking for nominations from the floor for the position of chair, please. Councilor, you have to click.
I'll learn.
Councilor Davidson, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Ron Wilson to return as chairperson of this committee, particularly given our upcoming year. There's a lot of activity with the Planning Advisory Committee, and I think with his wisdom and experience, it'll serve us well.
Deputy Mayor. Oh, just like Hal, there you go.
I'll second the nomination.
Okay, so do we have any other nominations from the floor? This is the second call. I'm going to call one more time for any further nominations from the floor. Congratulations, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you very much.
And you've got this system mastered, so I'm really glad that you're going to still be
I
sitting
don't know
there.
about that, but anyway, I certainly appreciate the level of confidence that you've shown here today, and I look forward to continuing working with the committee and the town staff in the coming year. Thank you again.
Wonderful. So now I'm going to move on to the position of vice chair. So I am asking for nominations from the floor for the position of the vice chair of the committee.
Deputy Mayor Christie?
You got, she's still, wait, there we go.
Counselor Davidson.
Okay, we have a nomination for Counselor Davidson. Do I have a seconder for that nomination?
I'll second that.
I'll second, yeah.
Thank you. Seconded by Counselor Landry. Are there any further nominations for the position of vice chair? Asking one more time, are there any further nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, congratulations, Counselor Davidson. Just before we move on, I'm going to ask people for the benefit of Mr. Wells, when you're speaking into your mic, get close and speak a little louder than you normally would, please. Thank you.
Yes,
Your last sentence, you were closer and you could really hear the speaker. Prior to that, I'm pretty most just your voice. So if you're within a couple of inches of the speaker, so it comes through the other mic.
okay, how is that? Okay, good, okay. The next item on the agenda deals with the review of the demolition process, and I'll ask Mr. Fisher if he would come forth, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay out there in the? Can't hear me out there? What about? What if I remove my mask just temporarily while speaking? So, so this memo is really just to reiterate and emphasize the process that we typically go through when we're considering the demolition of a property or properties. In this case, the dangerous and unsightly premises administrator has brought two properties, 52 Hickman Street and 1 McCully Street, to the Planning Advisory Committee just to consider demolition, given the lack of maintenance over the years that has left both these buildings in a state of serious disrepair. So in terms of the process, today is really an opportunity for the committee to see a report from staff, take a look at the pictures, and then the property owners have been invited to this meeting to discuss their intentions for the property. And then at a later date, no decision would be made tonight, but at a later date, the Planning Advisory Committee would be asked to consider a demolition order or not for the subject properties. So the orders are rooted in the Municipal Government Act. In the report, the definition of dangerous and unsightly under the Municipal Government Act is provided, and that is why these properties are being brought to the committee. And I'll just, under the definition of dangerous and unsightly is properties that may be dangerous, unsightly, unhealthy, or offensive to a person, that is in ruinous or dilapidated condition, that seriously depreciates the value of land or buildings in the vicinity, that is no longer suitable for human habitation or a business purpose, that is an allurement to children, that is a hazard to the health or safety of the public, that is unsightly in relation to a neighboring property due to it not being maintained, that is a fire hazard to itself or the surrounding lands or buildings, or that is generally in a poor state of hygiene or cleanliness. So, so that's just to reiterate and make clear the process. If there's any questions about that process, I'd be happy, Mr. Chair, to answer them.
There appear to be no questions, so just proceed to Mr. Fisher, please.
So the next, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next item, or the first property being considered, is 1 Macaulay Street. This building has been in a state, has been vacant, more or less vacant for a number of years. The lack of maintenance over the years has left the subject building in a state of serious disrepair. There is a report in this, there's a report by the building official, Mark Buskey, that conducted an inspection of the property last fall and found serious concerns for the structural safety and health concerns for the building. So provided in your package is a history dating back to 2011, although that is as far back as the town's current records go. You can see there, I won't go through them all, but there were a number of orders placed on the building to repair it, make repairs, to maintain the lawn. None of those orders were acted upon by the property owner. And in almost all cases, the town took the initiative to make the necessary minimum repairs or maintain the lawn and charge it to the property tax bill. I will note, so this dated back to 2011. There were several pieces of equipment and property that were removed by the town. In 2013, again, there were repeated orders to paint the building, make repairs to the roof and the holes, to fix damaged concrete of the walls, and remove hazardous items like staging that was set up on the building. In 2017, the town boarded up a hole because the property was not secure. And then in 2021, as I mentioned, in December, staff, including the building inspector, conducted a inspection of the building. I apologize, back in November 9th, the town entered the building along with a representative of the property owner and Amherst Police and did an evaluation of the building. That is detailed in a report from Mr. Buskey that I'll get into in a minute. But as a result of that inspection, an order was sent to the property owner requiring a report from a structural engineer by February of the 7th of this year. That order was not adhered to and nothing was received. I guess it should be noted that no appeals were received on that order for the structural engineer. So as I mentioned, that inspection by Mr. Buskey and other town officials noted that the building was not secured from unauthorized entry. There were signs of mortar failure and cracking in more than one location. The back of the building appears to be collapsing outwards, which causes a hazard for people that might be on the property, falling debris, whatnot. The roof is not weather tight. The windows in the building are missing or broken. The structure shows signs of rust and decay due to the building not being weather tight and a lack of heat being in the building and general lack of maintenance. The mechanical systems of the building are compromised. And as you can see in the pictures that we'll go through quickly, they're not serviceable. And there is significant signs of transient activity in and out of the building. So the inspector concluded that the building is starting to show signs of structural failure due to the lack of maintenance, and it poses a risk to the health and safety due to the excessive number of items in the building. And I guess that there is a number of pictures here. You can see generally that there are holes in the building. It's easily accessible from unauthorized people. There's actually a large hole if you look on the second page, there is a large hole in the wall, and it appears that there's a fairly well-worn path in and out of the building. There's a large amount of debris in the building, including, what you can see in the pictures. There are potentially dangerous substances, including paint, propane tanks, et cetera. And so, the building, given it that it's a steel structure, there's some concern that, once part of that, the steel roof structure collapses, the whole building will collapse, and it will collapse in on a large quantity of derelict vehicles and other equipment, and it will make a already difficult job that much more difficult and unsafe for people trying to remove the building, essentially. So, given the state of the subject building, detailed in the building official's report, and the relatively long history of neglect by the property owner, staff are suggesting that PAC turn their minds to possibly ordering that the contents of the building be removed, and that the building be demolished and backfilled, and it would be within 90 days from making that decision. I guess that'd be the first option. The second option would be the committee order staff to hire a structural engineer to assess the condition of the building and submit a report back to PAC with all the costs being charged to the property owner's tax account. I guess, and the third option to consider would be that the committee order staff to simply continue to monitor the property and bring any issues that arise back to the committee at that time. So with that, I guess, turn it back over to you.
Oh, okay, thank you, Mr. Fisher. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee?
Larry.
No.
Sorry,
Okay, Larry?
yeah, were those pictures provided? They weren't attached to the documents shared for the meeting, right? I didn't see them on the screen here.
Natalie just emailed them to.
They were just, no, they weren't part of the package.
Well, tell them we'll email them to.
Okay.
We can email them to you, Mr. Party.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Wells. Is there anything we can do to turn the volume up here so that Mr. Wells can hear us, or?
I don't think it's something Iris points out back.
Yeah.
There is a good volume back
Is there anywhere that Mr. Wells could be seated that would enhance his ability to hear the proceedings?
I think he can't hear the Zoom people. I think.
Can you hear me, Mr. Wells? Okay, how is this? Better? If I speak loudly, can you hear me now? Okay, so I would ask any of the members of the committee or staff approach their mic rather closely and speak a little bit more loudly than what they would normally do. And I don't know if it's possible for those members of the committee and staff who are watching us by Zoom, but I would also ask if you could speak up as well if you intend to have any comments. So are there any questions or comments of Mr. Fisher with respect to his report? The next component of the procedure would be to call for comments of the individual or individuals who have placed the complaint against this particular property. And I don't see that there is anybody in attendance tonight. So I would then ask Mr. Wells if you have any comments that you would like to make, and if so, could you move over to the rostrum there and speak into the microphone, please? Go ahead.
So what do you want to know?
Do you have any comments or concerns with respect to the information that's been presented here this evening with respect to your property on Macaulay Street?
I've been in it 2 or 3 times recently. Not good, but I've been in it. I never had the big door open. And about 2 days masonry work needs doing. It needs a bulldozer go up and take a little bit of fill out. There's a tank in behind the building that should, an in-ground tank, I don't know water or what. It should be taken out of the ground. But the yard should be graded up a little. Then it needs a shingled roof. The big flat part that's 81 feet long and maybe 20 some feet wide. It maybe needs a new metal roof on it. A little bit of slope to it, not much slope, but like the Kent building up on Church Street, very little slope. But the main roof, all the roof should be all steel, or I got lots of shingles. It could be reshingled. And then a fence put around it. No sense fixing up, the public's allowed to just go in and smash at it. No sense fixing up, and they can just go up there right all over my building. Not one sense fixing the building up, because the public's gonna smash it down. On Station Street, they have the tavern down there, fix a door up that says it wouldn't last 1 day. That night they tried to kick it down again. What goes to fix it up if no law in Amherst? Do you have to hire a man with a shotgun stand behind it every day in the light? We used to grow blueberries. We had 5 trailers out in the field. One fellow from Amherst. He says, I had trouble. I went to load the shotgun. It went off, went through the side of the trailer. I think they were giving him a hard time. He shot right through the side of the trailer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wells. Have you any other comments or thoughts with respect to Macaulay, the Macaulay Street property?
Well, I says about 2 days, Vaughn Martin could fix the outside brickwork.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wells. We will take your comments into consideration as we review during the process. Sorry, Mr. Davison. Oh, sorry, Mr. Davison.
Yes, Mr. Wells, I just have one question for you. In the report that was summarized by the chairman here today, the chairperson had indicated that they had requested or I believe Mr. Fisher had indicated that they requested an engineering report from you. And you did not supply an engineering report to the town of Amherst. Could you give a reason why?
Why? It was snow on the ground, a lot of snow. Do I get a snow blower to go up and open it to the public? Do I get a snow blower to blow it all out? So it's all free for the government. Anybody wants to go in there, help themselves? So I didn't go. I'm not feeling the best. Do I go up there and catch pneumonia?
So it's your belief that that building is structurally sound and that can be repaired?
Far as I know, it's structurally sound. 2 days work on the brickwork will fix it up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wells. We will take your your comments into consideration as we consider the recommendations that have been brought before us. Thank you.
But I'm not welcome in Amherst. I'll go.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Okay, the next item on the agenda relates to the property at 52 Hickman Street. Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yes, 52 Hickman Street is a vacant, single detached dwelling. It is again, similar to the previous case. It's experienced a lack of maintenance over the years and left the subject building in a state of serious disrepair. As it articulated in the building official's report noted below, there are various structural safety and health concerns throughout the building. So again, you provided this case started as a complaint last spring in 2021. The administrator responded to that complaint and sent a letter to the owner asking their intentions. In September, a second site visit follow-up was done and pictures were taken of the exterior. And an order was sent in September of 2021 requiring the property that the owner maintain this or cut the grass essentially and bring the building into a standard or demolish the building by October 15th. The lawn was maintained, but then in November, after giving notice that we intended to conduct an interior inspection of the building, the property owner applied for a demolition permit on November 3rd. On the next day, on November 4th, the building official entered the building and then on November 10th, a demolition permit was issued. However, technically it is not valid as the property owner did not pay the fee and pick up the permit. So as I stated, on November 4th, the building inspector did a inspection and noted that the exterior walls are in relatively good shape. The front porch are showing signs of structural fatigue due to rot and the building not being weather tight. The exterior foundation shows signs of cracks and structural stress. Bowing of the foundation was also observed. The roof is not weather tight, and there are holes in the roof due to the rot. And as you'll see from the pictures, there is significant water entering into the building. So most of the doors and windows are intact, but there's a significant collapse of drywall and plaster throughout the building due to weather entering the building. Furnace, electrical, and plumbing have all been compromised. In his opinion, the cost to bring this building back to a livable state would far exceed the value of the property. He recommended that the property be demolished. So you can see through the pictures that are provided there is significant rot, mold, and decay. The building systems are compromised if they're there at all. And so I guess in addition to the property owner, I guess I should mention that the property owner did contact the administrator today at about 3 p.m. today and stated that they would not be in attendance due to the weather, but that they intended to carry out the demolition within a week. So much like the McCully Street, the staff are providing PAC with the opportunity to consider a few options. that the first being that it be ordered demolished. The second being that the PUC asked order staff to engage a structural engineer to assess the building and report back to the committee. Or the third, that the committee order staff to continue to monitor the property at this time and bring any issues that might come up in the future. That's my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fisher. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Deputy Mayor Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Andrew, as I was reading through it, there was a couple things, and you did answer one of them about if there's been any contact since November. Usually we are told who the property owner is, which I don't see in any of this material. And are they able to do the demolition themselves in a timely manner safely? That would be kind of my concern as well. And if they applied for it in November and didn't follow through, what guarantees do we have at this point in time that it would?
I'm not sure that, I don't actually have I'll ask Emily if she could bring the name of the property owner.
Oops, sorry, down here,
The owner is listed as a Marion Halperd. Although she has passed away, it is under Eric Halperd, which is her son. He lives outside of town, and that's why he wasn't able to come today.
So in terms of the demolition permit, the short answer is we have no assurances that the demolition will begin. But he was advised when he called today by the administrator that the demolition permit was not valid and that he needed a valid demolition permit. He could come in tomorrow and pay the fee and get the permit. It is valid for 12 months. Part of that permit includes a demolition plan that states where the materials would be taken. And I believe it includes a safety plan. Yes. So I guess we do have no assurances that he can, but the typical process is that we would issue the permit subject to those conditions and give them that opportunity to do that. I guess in terms of discussion, you could give technically if he, picked up the permit today, they would have 12 months to demolish the building. The concern staff have, I think at this point, is that we get to November and the demolition hasn't taken place, and we then get into the winter season, and we're this time in 2023 considering demolition. And the fact that the person wants to demolish or has indicated that they're going to, I think there's reason to think that we can let some time pass and give them the opportunity to do that, but let's consider moving in that direction in case they don't.
And I would think too that if this property owner does request a permit and we do issue the permit, this committee still has the opportunity to monitor it. And as we indicated earlier, there's really no decision to be made at this point. And maybe by the time that we do meet again to make our deliberation, make our decision, we can get a better understanding of what is going to do. You have a follow-up question, Deputy Mayor?
If I could just comment on your comment, Mr. Chair, that we typically give 90 days. That's 3 months to demolish a building. It doesn't have to be 90 days. It could be longer. You could put the committee could place an order to demolish and set the time a longer time, and that would still give them the opportunity to do it themselves. Thank you.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah, okay, I was just gonna follow up to what you had said there and kind of say what parameters do we have for a timeline that might be different? So that kind of, something that we can decide as a committee to do that, especially if they're willing to go ahead on their own.
Hmm.
And we would have to work through with the safety plan, like you said, so that everybody was safe in that manner. So, okay, thank you.
Counselor Davidson.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, that's exactly where I was going to go. So could we entertain? There's three options here, but in the first option, it talks about having it done by the town and backfilled by November. But could we entertain something in the order of requesting the landowner or the property owner to have this done within 90 days? And if not, that we will proceed with doing it ourselves and applying it to the tax base.
Absolutely,
In
absolutely.
that way, it gives a fair chance for the property owner to do it on their own terms.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. McCarthy.
Nope, not yet.
Oh, over here, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, do we have any means of controlling who the owner has to demolish this building? In other words, would a qualified individual be demolishing it? Or could he go in there and try to do it himself?
I believe, and I could be, there's other, Jason can correct me, but I believe as long as they're following the safety plan and disposing it properly, that we can't dictate who exactly would undertake the demolition.
Could we not dictate that it be a qualified individual?
Well,
Mr. Chair, generally, the process is that the person doing the demolition. So typically, the homeowner applies for the demolition permit. But then a company or individual that has experience doing it will meet with the police chief, not the police chief, the fire chief and the building inspector, and develop their plan for the demolition, which would include probably, depending on the building, street closures, access to water to spray it as it's being demolished. Of course, your removal of electricity and natural gas and everything like that. So through that process, we make sure that the plan to do the work is satisfactory. But we can't control that which person is doing it or their qualifications. But in theory, if they develop a plan and they have a plan to follow the plan, or they intend to follow the plan, then they would be able to do the work. But generally, I think everyone that's ever been demolished is always by a company that's done these things. They have a large excavator, number of trucks, lots of people on staff. It's rare if ever, my buddy and my uncle get some hammers and saws and go and try to do something. I don't think we've ever seen that.
okay, thank you. Mr. Buskey?
Yeah, so part of the permit is still covered under National Building Code as to demos, the safety aspect of it and whatsoever. So usually when they start a demo permit or the actual demo, we will be doing drive-bys just to make sure that they are following what the code says and also on the safety of it. So again, that's part of the permit. And if they're not being safe, again, we can put a stop work order or also recommend safety aspects as to how they're going to demo the building properly.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments?
Mr. Party.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Party.
Thanks. Yeah, do we have an idea of how much approximately it cost for a demolition for like a building this size, and approximate cost that will be charged to the property owner's account?
Mr. McDonald?
going by history, again, pre-COVID history, I would wager a guess that if the property owner undertakes this work, they're gonna spend about $15,000, maybe $20,000 to demolish the building. If they don't do it and we go through our procurement process, I'm willing to bet that it would cost closer to $100,000 to do it. Simply because we don't get the same type of bids from the same type of companies that the private sector gets. Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Any other questions, comments? McDonald?
Sorry,
No. Okay. Deputy Mayor Christie?
I guess, and that just kind of brings up a question, I guess maybe I should have asked on the previous property. We had significant amounts of buildings come down that were owned by the previous gentleman. And it was a significant bill. I know that this former building on McCully is brick and has a lot of other safety hazardous things. And I know that there was a huge bill attached to that part of it with how the town had to dispose of those. Would there be any kind of ballpark figure on that as compared to, let's say, the Station Street or Smith Street or whatever that one was on, right on the corner was?
Yeah, so towards the, the property on McCully, I'm a little bit hesitant to give a number, but if you're not going to hold me to it, it's just a ballpark. If I had to guess, I'm willing to guess that a bid on that, if we put out a tender, knowing that when we do something like that, the Department of Environment stands there like this, as does Department of Labor. But if, to be quite frank, if a private individual did that, they wouldn't show up. Those two government entities wouldn't show up. So that the people bidding know that that's going to happen. I'm willing to bet that we'd be $250,000, $300,000, because what we would have to do is remove everything from the building, including, I think, 15 vehicles. We'd have to strip the wire out individually. We'd have to have, we have to look at every one of the thermostats and pull it apart and make sure that it's done environmentally, applicable. And we, if we don't, then we have some serious issues. So when we do it, we have to do it as per every letter of the law. And we know that there's going to be people watching us. Again, when the private sector does it, whether or not they go through all that, I don't know. But I know that they're not watched the way we are, and they can get it done a lot cheaper. So what we always want to do is just what the recommendation is order the property owner to remove the building. And then, hopefully we never have to step in and get involved.
And I guess just a follow up, is there anything currently on the receivables from previous PAC orders for demolishing of vehicles? Because there was significant amounts in the last 3 to 4 years that came down. I believe that most of those receivables have been collected, and I'm just wondering where we're at with that, because as a town, we can go ahead and do those for the safety, but if we're incurring, upwards to $500,000 at a time with no plan in place to recover that, and sometimes property owners can't, or other circumstances come into play. And the town is then on the hook for that, so.
So if we step in and we demolish a building, we have 2 courses of action. One is to sell at a tax sale, which of course, you're going to get $20,000 after you spend $300,000. So you never want to do that. The other course of action we have is we could actually take the property owner to court and sue them. In the last case with the number of properties that you're referring to, I think the bill was up over $500,000. And I'm certain that the whole thing has now been paid, and that those properties have, are in they may be a tax sale for other reasons, simply because they're not paying the property tax, but the demolition bills have all been paid on those properties.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, I guess the next course of action is for us as a committee to take the reports that have been presented to us today and the comments that we've heard around this table, as well as the comments from the property owner, take them under advisement and then come back sometime in the near future to further deliberate and make a decision on the move forward situation with each one of those two. One other comment that I would like to make, or one question I have, and it was brought up in the minutes of one of the meetings, if we could get a status report on the properties that have been brought forward to this committee at some point, whether, just so that we have some idea what the status is of those particular properties. If they're closed, that's great. We can put them to the wayside, but if there are any outstanding issues related to the orders that have been presented by this committee to council, if we could get an update. And I know it's sort of short notice to Mr. Fisher, but the one that I'm thinking of particularly is the proposed development that we heard back earlier in the spring. And would you have an update on that for us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you'll recall, it was a application for a development agreement for 3 52-unit apartment buildings at the end of Mosier and Brown Street, just south of the E.B. Chandler School property. Back in, I believe, February, the PAC made a motion requesting more information. There was a number of requests, but there was generally a traffic impact statement, a stormwater management plan, and some details around the shading impact of the buildings, and some additional perspective drawings that show sort of how the building will fit in the neighborhood. There were a couple of other minor things but that was sort of the big things. So that a request detailing that additional information was sent to the property owner and the property owner's representative. And so the ball is in their court. I don't have a timeline for when that will come back. There is a bit of work there to do. I guess what I'll say is by the time the PAC meets again, I plan to reach out to them and just ask them for an update on where they are.
Okay, great, thank you.
Was that the only?
I think that's the only one. Yes, go ahead, Mr. McDonald.
We've recently started a new process with Committee of the Whole, where we bring all outstanding tasks at every Committee of the Whole meeting, just with a one-line update. And I think it will be a good opportunity to have that as a standing part of our agenda as well. And we'll endeavor to do that for going forward.
Great, thank you. No, I was going to ask for something similar that we add to our agenda, and so that we can be brought up to date and keep current, because I know that there are members of the community who are familiar with what is brought before the PAC, and I know that people have asked what the status is, and it's a nice idea if we could be able to give them at least a bit of a comment anyway on what the status is. So, thank you. Okay. There's no other business, so accept a motion to adjourn. Our board's lit up. Thank you very much.
You guys were both green, and I shut mine off.
You're right.
Okay.
So Counselor Davidson made the motion. And Counselor Lander second.
Yeah, we don't need a vote.
Oh, you need to say.
Oh, okay, okay. It's been moved and seconded for adjournment of this meeting.